Hi everyone, TARDIS Guy 123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Doctor Who, The Keys of Marinus. As you can see right in front of you, it is a first Doctor story, and you've got William Hartnell right there as the first Doctor, then you've got Arbitan in the centre there, with the Conscience of Marinus machine right below him. Not entirely sure what this symbol means, maybe I didn't pay attention enough. I don't recognise it from the story itself, but anyway, it's there. They have the structures, the sort of like rocky, jagged rocks that are on the island of Marinus, and they've got another little landscape there, and you have two Voords right there, and the Voords are the main enemy of the story. Despite only appearing in the first and last episode, you know, there was sort of like an experiment, something to rival the Daleks. The first real monster to play off the monster idea as such, when they realised it was popular with the Daleks. And obviously they did rather fail, since they haven't appeared in anything else beyond this. This was written by Terry Nation, by the way, who created the Daleks and wrote all the Daleks, wrote the previous Dalek story, sorry, not all the Dalek stories. He wrote quite a lot of them though. And you know, he invented the Voord as something to potentially rival that. Didn't end up that way, but nevertheless, this story we got them in. They're also in Domain of the Voord, which is the first early adventure actually, which stars William Russell and Caroline Ford. But anyway, going back to this, let's take a look at the spine now. And there's that. Quite a colourful spine, more colourful than most, especially given its black and white story. And here is the back of it. If I can just get the light off that. Got some images up here, then starring William Hartnell, Keys of Marinus by Terry Nation, as I previously mentioned. There you have the blurb of the story, and then special features. The set of Marinus is the main interesting one, I guess, but yeah, there are some other little ones down there as well. You don't really, this isn't a set you would really get for the special features, I must say. There's not really too many of them on here, and they're not really that interesting. It's more the story that this DVD release is about. So let's open this up, and you have just got the one disc, as you probably already guessed. And there's the booklet, so let's take a closer look at that now. Get it out. Here we go. There is the booklet, front, middle there, and back, and it is a 6-part story. They were quite long actually back in William Hartnell and Patrick Charlton years. When it goes into colour, it kind of like calms down a bit with episode length, I would say. Tends to get more 4-parters then. In fact, I think the 80s is almost entirely made up of 4-parters. You've got the occasional 2-parter, and you know, 3-parters in what's called Sylvester McCoy's era, but you know, it is mostly 4-parters, I believe. But anyway, if this is going to stand, it's the perfect first time, but now it doesn't want to stand, so I'm just going to have to open it up slightly and leave it like that, and review the story itself. So this is very much a game of 6 parts, really. Quite literally, because it's a 6-part story, but also because each episode sort of has its own story within it, and then there's an overarching theme. It's a bit like the Key to Time, in a way, but much more condensed. And one thing I will say about this is that you do have... I'm sort of going to go through this episode by episode, which is unusual, but I kind of have to, because the episodes are so different. So episode 1 is sort of like the setup episode where they arrive on Marinus, and sort of like wander around, encounter the Voord, encounter Arbitan, and you basically get the essential premise of the story, the setup, where it's going on about these are the 4 keys, you need to collect them, and then it gets sent off. It's a good first episode, I guess. It sets the scene well, explains, it goes straight to the point, explains what's happening, and then they're off on their adventure. And that's all very good. Then you have episode 2, which I've forgotten the title of. Actually, I could just look inside the booklet, because that has all the episode titles on it. Place that back there, and then lean that up against it, so now you can see all the episode titles maybe. But yeah, Sea of Death is the first one, then The Velvet Web, which is probably the most interesting of the 6 in my opinion. It's sort of like, it's very much Barbara centric, and in fact this whole story is very Ian and Barbara centric. They did kind of like carry the show back then, and they do very much with this story, because William Hartnell takes a holiday for episodes 3 and 4, and which means that they very much take the title roles for this story. And you know, people kind of like say that, oh, Classic Who's all about the Doctor, whereas New Who finally allows the companion to develop and take centre stage in a way. But you know, that isn't strictly true, and admittedly when you get into the later 60s and the 70s and whatnot, that does kind of like become the formula. Back here it is very much Ian and Barbara running the show, and this story very much demonstrates that, I feel, which is very interesting really, because they are 2 very good characters, 2 very interesting characters, and you get to see both of them show their strengths in this story, and especially Barbara in The Velvet Web. You know, it sort of like starts off with Ian being the one suspicious of what's going on here. You sort of like got this interesting society where anything you want is granted to you, but Ian's sort of suspicious. He thinks, oh, that can't be true. But then Ian suddenly gets taken in when something mysterious happens at night, and Barbara's sort of the one that's now the skeptic, and it sort of like becomes very terrifying for her when she doesn't know who to trust. And that's all very interesting. I like that sort of like character element to this episode. Resolution to the sort of like subplot of it with the brains in the jars. Yeah, that could have been handled a bit better, but 25 minutes, not much to work with, so it works for what it is. Then you have the Screaming Jungle, which is once again Ian and Barbara centric, very much. The Doctor's on holiday now. Susan and the other supporting cast members, Sabitha and I've forgotten the other character's name, but those three, basically just disappear halfway through the story, and it's left with Ian and Barbara having to avoid the traps and find the micro key. So that's all very well and good. And then you go on to the Snows of Terror, which is a bit like the Ice Warriors in a way, in the music, I guess. It's also kind of like set on a glacier and whatnot, so maybe that's also a similarity. The music reminds me a lot of the Ice Warriors as well. However, it is better than the Ice Warriors, I will say, and it's sort of like a bit more interesting. You've got a hunter there who at first seems like a very kind and nice character, but then things start to change when Ian leaves and it's just Barbara alone with him, and it gets quite adult, I guess. It's hard to deny what's implied in that scene, but obviously nothing happens because it's a children's show. But at the same time, you know, people have accused that of being rather adult, but still it's nice for Barbara's character, and she sort of like faces up against him, and that's very good. And then Susan and whatnot are brought back into the story in sort of like the second half, and they find the micro key, and then they move on to their second to last destination, their final key to collect in Sentence of Death, which is very different from all the others. Once again, you've got 6 very different episodes here, or maybe 5, because episodes 1 and 6, having the same setting of the island, are quite similar. But at the same time, Sentence of Death is sort of like the court case story. Got an interesting society here where you have to, it's not innocent until proven guilty, it's guilty until proven innocent, which is quite problematic when Ian gets the death penalty. And so Ian sort of takes a back seat in this one, and because the Doctor's back now from his holiday, he sort of takes centre stage a bit, but also Barbara and Susan are going about and doing investigations as well, while the Doctor's sort of like running a court case scene. So yeah, it's very much evenly split between them, and it gives William Russell a bit of a rest, and that's all quite interesting, the direction they go in with that story. That is actually one of the more intriguing parts of the story, I will say. And then you have the Keys of Marinus, the final part, where it all ends. It's the court case plot sort of carries over halfway through this and then stops, and then you go to the island for the finale. And for a finale, it's rather dull to the whole story. And I will say that it's not really the sum of its parts, this story. It's more interesting on an individual episode level. A bit like The Key to Time, actually, where people will kind of enjoy individual episodes more than they will enjoy the overall arc as a whole. Of course, this is much shorter than that, so it's 6 parts. So that's all very well and good. So I think that's all I've got to say about the story, really. As I said, The Velvet Web's probably my favourite, followed by Sentence of Death, then Snows of Terror, then Screaming Jungle last. I'm not including these two because these two are sort of like separate. They're not key episodes, well, they're the key episodes, but they're not focusing on the keys. That was a very poor pun. It wasn't even intentional. It just sort of slipped out. Anyway, so that is what I will say about this story. So yeah, would I recommend it? I've heard some people feel very negatively about this story. I personally quite like it. Just saying. So I would say go get it. It doesn't cost that much. It's only like £6 something. Yeah, maybe if you're just starting your Doctor Who collection, however, though there are some more interesting ones. But you know, if your Doctor Who collection's growing at a fairly fast rate, I'd say this is one that's worth checking out. So, thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.